Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. In this episode, streaming is having a fire sale. San Diego Comic-Con might never be the same again. Raunchy Comedies might be back. We recast the inevitable remake of Indiana Jones, and our topic this week, why do we cling to the past? And I mean that in so many different ways. Let's get on with the show. My name's Aaron Peterson. Joining me today, my fellow host, Amanda Sink.
You got that right. Hello, hello.
She was actually early this week, so let's all give her a round of applause.
Woo!
And we're done. Troy Heinrichs.
It happens once a year. Thank you.
Troy Heinrichs.
Thanks for the vacation time, and I'm so glad to be doing a show with Amanda.
Aww.
Hi, Troy. We had so much fun on the cruise. I miss you guys already.
But everybody's sick of us talking about the cruise, so we're not going to talk about it.
I know. I missed my opportunity.
You did.
I was busy getting home.
I was busy getting home. So remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can also join our Facebook group, which is The Hollywood Outsider, or we're on Twitter at BuyPopcorn, of course. So what's going on with you guys? You guys have any big 4th of July plans? If you're listening to this after 4th of July, just pretend like it was before.
Yeah, the 4th of July is like my favorite holiday. I like stuff that blows up, and I love good outside summer concert music. And the mother-in-law decided that that's the weekend that we're going to sell the house and move. So I will be spending it moving instead of watching fireworks and drinking. And yep, she sold her house and she's moving into assisted living.
Oh, I hope she's happier with that.
I should say it's not assisted living; it's independent living.
Senior living.
Yeah, where there's someone that can help her out if she needs it, but it's still a 1,200 square foot apartment.
It's where everybody has syphilis.
I mean, after the cruise, I know we're going to talk about the cruise, but I'm all about assisted living because I need someone to feed me because cooking sucks.
Honestly,
my mom had a wheelchair all week, and she said she loved it. And I'm like, I don't know if this is the way you want to take this.
Priority access, my guy.
Yeah, she did. She was like jetted right through everything.
That's why she was able to be glowing in the picture that she took.
That's
because
true.
She was refreshed all week.
She was rested. She's getting a knee surgery, so it's legitimate. It isn't like she went and just said, "Hey, give me one of those so I can get through security." I mean,
that's actually probably fair because there are probably people who have done it or know someone who's done it, and then they're like cursing you, like, "How dare you advocate for this?"
No, she needed it or she couldn't come. She couldn't walk. But yeah, she got jetted through. She got treated like a celebrity in many respects. That's what she kept saying. I feel like a celebrity. I'm like, is this what you think celebrities are treated like?
We got on the loading area at the same time as Aaron, and Aaron was like in this little like super secret line, and we had to go all the way through the cattle call, and we're like, screw Aaron.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Well, I had to push her. Somebody had to push her. You can't just wander around aimlessly. That's how people get lost.
She can't wheel herself.
Yeah,
Aaron was 2 drinks ahead the whole cruise because of that.
I actually kept telling her, why don't you roll yourself? Like, it'd be good for your biceps.
You did not.
I did
you
too.
dick. You're lucky she loves you right now.
She laughs. She laughs, and then she gets to her room and cried.
Speaking of 4th of July, though, back to your original question. Original question.
Welcome,
I
Earth.
am not moving. I am actually very excited because I'm taking this holiday off of work. And so I'm going to have like a 4-day weekend. And I'm going to do my best to like completely disconnect because I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that occasionally. And I might go to a lake. I'm thinking about taking like my dogs to a lake or something. And like maybe I'll go to a baseball game. I don't know. But I'm excited to have the freedom to make those plans and do something.
That's good.
That's really good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Write a review, I guess. I should probably do that.
You could actually write one, Amanda. It is okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide. Okay, now normally I have, where I've talked about this many years past. I will go out on my deck because I have a white fence, and I will use my projector and watch. It's like 4th of July movie on the fence. Project on there. It's like my little screen. It's like a drive-in. But I can't decide what to watch this year. I've done Jaws. I've done Independence Day. I did The Patriot. So I don't really know what else to do that would really qualify as a 4th of July film. I don't want to do Jaws of Revenge because I want to enjoy it.
Well,
so
officially, 4th of July is now the Indiana Jones weekend, right? So you can watch Temple of Doom.
Oh, that's a good call.
I could, but I just saw that in the theater a couple months ago.
Okay.
So watch Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Last Crusade. I think I've done
Last
Raiders
Crusade
before. I haven't seen Last Crusade in a long time. There we go. That could work.
I'd come over and watch it with you, but I have to move my mom.
We could go project it on her wall.
We could. We could use the community room at the new place.
There we go.
Or just pull an Erin and tell her that she needs to move herself.
Indiana Jones and Jell-O. That sounds fun. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, Mom, don't you want biceps like Indiana Jones? You can push your own chair.
I'm telling you. It's all in how you sell it, all right? It's only mean if you say it mean. It wasn't mean.
Mm-hmm.
It was a joke.
Salesman of the year.
People still make jokes. It's okay.
Barely. And then they get tried for it.
That's true. Hello. That's all right. Get this on Twitter. I'm good for it. All right, movie and TV news. Let's move on here. So Paramount Plus canceled a bunch of shows like Grease, Rise of the Pink Lady, Star Trek Prodigy, Queen of the Universe, and The Game, and is purging that same content from the service, which is the same thing Disney Plus just did with a couple dozen shows. HBO Max did a while back before it was called Max. So is this the new? I mean, why would we get invested in a show if this is what we're going to do now? And it's happening a lot more.
Is it new? It feels like it's the same. It's called Pilot Didn't Work Out, so we canceled it after 9 episodes and didn't pick it up for the back 9.
Sure,
but they're purging it from the service.
Like they
That's
get a whole,
the problem I have.
They get a whole season and then it's just gone. That's new. That's not like network. I mean, it might have gone off the air, but you'd find it in syndication somewhere down the road or on a box set or something. This is just gone. That's my poof sound.
If they keep it on the service, every time it plays, there's obviously different payments and stuff that are tied to it. So the royalties to the actors, the royalties to the crew. And
I get it, but what's the point of getting invested in a show unless you know it's a lightning rod for a renewal? What's the point? It feels like taking a chance on a smaller show is going away. Kind of like trying to, at least an indie film, I get a conclusion.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I think what this is going to lead to and the concern I have about it is that we're no longer going to have some of these unique concepts, these independent films and all of these different creative ideas. We're just going to have franchise after franchise after franchise, blockbuster, everything attached to the Marvel name. Like if it doesn't have some sort of, I don't know, financial guarantee attached to it, then we're not going to see something. And all we've complained about as a consensus as a group for the past, 5+ years is that everything is turning into remakes and sequels and trilogies and stuff like that, not IP, original content.
IP.
Yeah. And so what kind of precedent is this going to set if because people are no longer, to Aaron's point, going to want to invest their time and energy into a show when there is so much competition for one, if they don't know there's a guarantee that it's still going to be there.
I think the thing that people need to understand, including the TV networks, is that there was this thing called books, and the books only had to be 100 pages, 200 pages. They didn't have to be 1,100 Stephen King. It was fine to come it down a little bit, to lay off the drugs some. But at the end of the day, it's a one and done complete story. I really love, I know Aaron's going to hate me, Station 11. 8 episodes, in and out. Tales from the Loop, 8 episodes, in and out. Devs, 8 episodes, in and out. Never have to see another bit of it. It told a complete, concise story in that single season. And I think you can make more money doing standalone 1-season shows than you can like trying to make season 2 and season 3 and season 4.
How does that
thing go on for 10 years? But
how does that matter if it's ripped from the service and you never see it again? If you tell all your friends to go watch Station 11 and it's not there anymore, you can't ever grow that base, you know? And why would you bother? Why would I bother taking a chance on a show that, well, maybe I'll get halfway through it and then they rip it from the service? You know what I mean? And that's happening more often than it ever has before because their HBO Max showed that you could write a lot of this stuff off. You could save yourself a lot of money, take a tax write-off. So you could be, I've been delaying watching that show because I've had too much content. I'm behind. Now I'm going to start. Now I'm 4 episodes in because it takes me a while because I'm not binging. Some people don't have the time. And then you get halfway through and they rip it from the service. You never get to see the ending. Why invest your time? They're making the case for me to not invest my time for anything that isn't already guaranteed renewal.
And I think that's part of the challenge with the streaming services and the streaming wars is that everybody thought streaming was the way to go. And I think it still comes back to the original problem of like when we had cable, it was like, I don't want to spend $80 a month just to watch Orphan Black. So why don't I just buy Orphan Black for $30 and I'm done. And then I have Orphan Black forever because I can watch Orphan Black as many times as I want because I now own Orphan Black. But I don't have to pay $70 to get Orphan Black. So I saved myself $40 and I just buy the content that I want rather than buying this a la carte, suck everything down model, which all we do is complain about the fact that we don't have any time to watch the a la carte, suck it down all you want model.
Well, people aren't going to be happy no matter what. But I think back to the second to last paragraph of what you said was about how they if they're doing a one and done complete walk away, you don't need anything more. The problem is that they're not writing the stories where you can just complete it and walk away. They're writing it where it's either left at a complete cliffhanger or open-ended enough so that way they can have a second season if they get enough airtime and money and all that good stuff or whatever it may be. Airtime. This is streaming.
Views, Grandma.
Thank you. I know that aged me so much. But that's the problem is that they're not developing in them where they can be a complete story. Like Star Trek Prodigy, wasn't that supposed to have, that was supposed to have more to come. Mm-hmm. And it concluded in a manner where there was more to come. And so that's the challenge that you have is, okay, if that's your grand scheme and your grand plan is that we're going to one and done shows, cool. But then you have to write them that way. And they're not written that way whatsoever, almost at all anymore, because they know that the way to get money and for things to kind of regenerate and continue and move on is for it to be connected to the IP and have it become a series or a franchise or whatever it may be, because that's what's been selling.
I'll tell you what, all this nonsense is why I've gone back to movies primarily. Everybody keeps telling me all these TV shows I should watch. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And I don't even care anymore. I want a concluded story. I want to see an ending. I'm tired of investing my time in shows that either don't get renewed and the story has to carry over, or they're just removing the content entirely, or, you just never get a good solid finish to whatever story you're invested in. It's just frustrating. And it's become, it's very disrespectful to the viewers is the way I see it. And I feel like they just, if it's not a big IP, they don't care anymore. Some big IPs, they don't care. They took Westworld off. Even those they don't care about.
But I think the thing that you have to remember is that this goes against the same arguments that we've always had about the difference between owning physical media and buying digital, because of the fact that you are not buying the service. You are renting from the service. For $9.99 a month, you are giving a 1 month period of time to watch whatever's available for that month. You're not entitled to Westworld in perpetuity. It was a great 4 seasons. If I really liked Westworld, I'll go buy Westworld.
I did buy Westworld.
I bought Westworld too because I thought it was great. I also think Westworld was a completely awesome, self-contained 1 season story. And if it would have ended at the end of season 1, I would have been happy as a clam. But I also know that there was a lot more that you could have done with that property.
Sure.
And so in any form of entertainment, and this was especially when you're a stand-up comic, and even Miss Maisel, which is the most recent comic type show that even brought this up. Like the number one rule is always leave them wanting more, because if you don't leave them wanting more, there's nothing to come back for, right? Oh, I already saw that. It's over. So I like content that says, hey, here's a really great story, and I could maybe pull out a season 2 of something else if another great story came up from it. But I don't need a season 2. But if a season 2 came, sure, I'd watch it because I enjoyed the first season.
Maybe they put it on and then they rip it off right when you're getting ready to watch it. That's where we're at now. You just don't know. And I haven't started
Mrs. Davis because I'm just like it'll
What's
be
the
there
point?
or it might not be there. Like,
yeah, I don't have a whole lot
I'll
of faith
figure it out later.
in Peacock as a whole service.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And segueing into another topic, Warner Bros. Discovery is looking to sell half its assets. Like they're trying to negotiate like a $500 million deal to sell film and TV and music rights to their material, including some Batman properties. And there is a whole ordeal at Turner Classic Movies where Spielberg and others had to intervene just to keep the channel alive, it seems, which they are keeping it alive to some degree because the film chiefs Mike DeLuca and Pam Addy are going to take their vision to Turner Classic Movies, so it will succeed in some form. But once again, Warner Brothers just feels like an eternal fire sale. I'm really starting to wonder if Warner Brothers Discovery should just be called Discovery, because it doesn't seem like they have too much of a care about the actual Warner Brothers part.
Yeah, but remember, it was like a whole bunch of conglomerates even before it was Warner Brothers, right? It was Time and Warner, and then it was Time Warner, and then AT&T bought the whole thing, and they just spent a whole bunch of money buying content, and it included HBO.
Yeah, but Discovery's not like axing all the Discovery content. They're mostly just axing the Warner Brothers content.
Well, they're axing stuff that's like, what do you want to call it? Legacy content?
Yeah,
like Turner
stuff
Classic
that's
Movies
depreciated.
Type. Yeah, like it's Purple Rain, it's Sweeney Todd, it's Casablanca. It's not stuff that came out yesterday.
Classic. That's not
right. It's classic, and someone's
material.
It's no different than if I have a baseball card and I have Mickey Mantle's rookie card, and I'm like, I freaking hate baseball, but somebody is going to want that Mickey Mantle rookie baseball card, and they're going to pay me a whole bunch of money in order to get it. I have no problem with Warner Brothers selling off stuff if someone's going to pay top dollar for it, because it's going to put Warner Brothers in the black to make new content for their service. Someone else is going to buy this content, air it on their service. The content's not going away. Warner Brothers is just saying, to us, it has very little value. To somebody else, it might have more value.
Still heartbreaking.
It's called capitalism.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yes.
It can be. The Turner Classic Movies thing is almost a heartbreaker to me. And I know that's probably like ridiculous. How many people watch it? But I love to just explore and find old movies that I've never seen, or I haven't seen them forever. And, you wander around there and you find a little gem, or you find something that, wow, I've always wanted to see this, but I never took the time. So I'm going to sit down and watch it. And I really wonder, today when you talk to people about like classic films, it's 80s and forward, right? Nobody even really looks at the 70s anymore. I don't even know, how many people coming up really watch movies from the 70s, Dirty Harry and The Godfather and stuff like that. It's really 80s and forward that have become the classic of cinema. Where when I was growing up, it's as far back as cinema went. Now, granted, much less content then. I know that makes a difference, but still, it just breaks my heart that one is taking a hit.
But Turner Classic Movies could be the same thing, where it's like it might go away, but there might be people that just kind of pick it all up. So you think about like DreamWorks, right? You have Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen all coming together and then brought DreamWorks to life. And look what DreamWorks is today. You can get some people that are like, hey, we want Turner Classic Movies to live on. Let's go ahead and throw a little bit of money at it, make it its own separate streaming service, $4.99 a month. And the people that want Turner Classic Movies will pay $4.99 a month for it. And the people that care will preserve that stuff, right? There's people that care about the history of Legos or the history of Nintendo or the history of all these brands. Those people will put the money towards it and make sure it doesn't die. Just because the big three don't care about it anymore doesn't mean it's not going to disappear completely.
The problem I have with it is mostly just the principle of them discarding so much of the classic and the nostalgia, which to Aaron's point comes from the WB side, and not discarding anything from the Discovery side, or at least that's not making news if they are. So for me, that's the concern that I have, is just like, are you really there for movie fans, or are you just like, to me, it's just becoming all about money.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is.
You're right. I know that that's the world that and the industry that this is, but I just feel like there used to be a time where there was a deeper appreciation for the craft, for the work that was being done, for the films and shows that were created, and the artists that poured their heart and soul into making those things.
I don't think David Zaslav has made no indication that this particular reign of Warner Brothers Discovery is going to run in line with that.
Yeah.
The appreciation for the artist is done, it seems.
Discovery bought them, right? This is the thing that we always talk about in mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. Like, we're buying this company because our customer base aligns or our culture aligns or whatever. But at the end of the day, they do take some of the top talent from the old place into the buying place. But for the most part, the buying place basically just destroys the old place. It's typical business.
Yeah, that's true.
What's funny, and will be ironic later, so I'm giving you a future warning. Later, I'll be bitching about us clinging to the past. here I just said we should cling somewhat to the past.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love to be a dipshit. All right.
A hypocrite.
And as a robot who can
Or
see
a
into the
hypocrite.
future, who doesn't cling to the past, I will tell you that all the shit that's being like let go from Warner Brothers right now, all of that will become a magical new service that's going to kick Discovery's ass. Just wait.
True story. All right. Well, this is something that has been foreboded, whatever, for many, many years. But the impending death of the San Diego Comic-Con. It's been the leading fest for fandom for multiple years. I've been there a couple times, but it's been a long time since I've been there. Probably like 7 or 8 years ago for this very podcast. But this year, all of the major players, including Marvel, Netflix, Sony, HBO, and Universal, have bowed out. Now, if you don't know what Comic-Con is, it's where a lot of times we'll get the biggest outpouring of news, big reveals and that sort of thing from the big players, and they'll bring their actors and their talent and they'll just show up, and you know, it's a huge event. Thousands and thousands of people go there and it gets tons and tons of press. But now it's very, very minuscule in terms. I mean, Lionsgate has a panel. I mean, it's going to be the smaller studios are going to have panels there instead of these big mega panels. Maybe Warner Brother Discovery will have something there. I don't know. But what do you think about this? I mean, do we even need Comic-Cons anymore? I mean, are they kind of fading away? I mean, you've got Cameo now, so you don't really even have to go anywhere to see your favorite actors anymore. And they release the news constantly every single day. There's some new breaking news that you don't really need a Hall H anymore. So is this the Comic-Con that we've known? Is it dead?
Yeah, I would say that it's not dead. It's not completely over, but I do fear what this is going to do to the future of Comic-Con. Now, we should also add some of the context that part of the reason this is going on are these different groups will not be participating, different studios will be participating in the event is because of the SAG and AMPTP contract deadline and the guild potentially going on strike and things like that. So sitting out of promotional events, I guess, is part of it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that it's a disinterest in the con itself. I think it's more just those circumstances. But I think because the con has been, I guess, slowly declining in its purpose and value and interest.
COVID, and then... Yeah. So it's been hit every year. It keeps getting hit.
Don't think that it's going to survive too many more years, quite honestly, because of that.
I mean, it'll survive. It'll just survive in a completely different way.
It'll go back to the original way where it was more about comic books or something.
Exactly. I mean, it became a spectacle because the fans wanted this spectacle because it was really like the Star Trek universe and the Marvel universe and the DC universe and all of these universes that were tied into comic book type lore that started showing stuff. And then all the networks were like, oh my God, look at all the press we can get. And then Netflix comes along like Netflix does and says, here's the Tudum event, which I kind of still feel is aptly named because I think it's dumb, but because it doesn't give me enough info about the things that are coming, right? I still have to go to Variety to get an article or Deadline to get an article about what I just saw on the Tudum event.
People don't realize that they send press releases out after those events, and I get way more information from that than I do anything.
The event itself.
Yeah.
But E3 was facing this with the which is the Electronic Arts and Entertainment Expo.
That's done. It's dead.
It's dead. Like they're like all Nintendo does is just film some stuff and puts it out, and then all the other game studios were like, why don't we do that too? And then there's no reason to go to a convention anymore. You just wait for
and spend thousands of dollars.
Right. Airfare, hotels, whatever. Even the WWDC from Apple, which was like a huge event, and everybody goes to San Francisco for the Worldwide Developers Conference for the opening keynote where they introduced all the software, still pre-recorded from Apple, even this year, when the pandemic is officially over. Yet they still didn't go back to the old ways because they realized the new ways are just cheaper to produce and put on, and it is what it is. I mean,
you know what's frustrating though? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what's really frustrating about this is that we all know that when you go to an event like this, you have to plan months and months and months in advance. Mm-hmm. People have already spent the money, usually on rooms at this time, you can't get your cancellation fees back. I mean, unless you booked really, really early. The flights are through the roof right now. I mean, people are losing money. Like there are fans that are going, they assumed that there would be the same people that have frequently been at this event would be there. And then they're just finding out, in the last couple weeks that that's not going to happen. And so they're going to be out a shit ton of money. They probably wanted to go to this event their whole lives or whatever. And they spent a fortune for nothing. And they might get some of it back. They might get most of it back, but they're not getting all of it back.
It's also why one thing that the COVID crisis taught everybody, or should have taught everybody, is that travel insurance is very inexpensive and should be purchased anytime you have anything major like this. Like
taught me that lesson hard.
Like the cruise, travel insurance. Go to Europe, travel insurance. Go to Hawaii, travel insurance.
I had a vacation canceled 5 times, and I lost money until I started buying travel insurance. And then I'm like, it worked out. Yeah, same vacation, people. The same trip 5 times.
5 times.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, and before we move on, we should also mention that James Gunn has confirmed that David Cornswet will play Superman in Superman Legacy. Ironically, he looks like a young Henry Cavill. I'm just saying. And Rachel Brosnahan from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, fantastic actress, is going to play Lois Lane. So, I mean, honestly, she can carry that movie then. Because I don't know. I've seen David Cornswet in a couple things. I haven't been impressed yet, but he also hasn't had any big breakout roles. So let's see what he can do, and we'll see what this new movie delivers. I'm not super excited for Superman Legacy, but it's going to happen. Let's see where we go. Maybe this will rejuvenate the DC lineup and not make any more flashes happen, I guess, box office wise. Also, if you listen on Stitcher's going away in a short period of time. So you might want to segue to a new podcast app because Stitcher has been absorbed by Sirius. There you go. Fun facts. There's nothing really to talk about with Superman Legacy, so we're just going to move on from it. We let you know. There you go. I care more about who Lex Luthor's going to be than I do who Superman's going to be at this point, because that seems to be the casting they just can't get right since Michael Rosenbaum. All right, moving on. The podcast awards are coming out. It's that time of year. Starting July 1st, you can go to podcastawards.com and vote for The Hollywood Outsider for Best Entertainment Podcast. We are in entertainment, and The Blacklist Exposed, which Troy and I do, is going to be in TV and film. It starts July 1st. One of those podcast awards where it's actually the people that decide who the finalists are. If you've heard our show before, you've heard me talk about it before, but if you haven't, it's basically driven by fans. So finalists are going to be you people. So if you go out and pick our show and the Blacklist Exposed as well as the finalists, then that helps us make those final rounds.
Yeah, we would even say the Gaming Outsider in the gaming category if those guys actually get their act together and submit this year, because I don't think they did last year.
I'm not submitting anybody until they tell me they're in it. That's what I'm saying. Right. So the Hollywood Outsiders in entertainment for sure. The Blacklist Exposed is in TV and film for sure.
And Packers Fan Podcast is in there for sure for sports.
There you go. Look at Troy. Troy gets paid. Actually, he gets additional funds from other podcasts to keep promoting them. So anybody that wants to pimp their podcast, please reach out to us at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. We'd love to whore you out.
Yeah.
Get them advertising dollars. But also, each one of those podcasts are going to be eligible for the People's Choice Award.
Yes.
Which is your favorite.
And for the purposes of this podcast, you want to pick The Hollywood Outsider. The Hollywood Outsider. Sometimes you have to go to the. I don't know why, but it's down.
Yeah,
it's down
it
under
does.
T. So we're always The Hollywood Outsider. Entertainment and People's Choice. And The Blacklist Exposed for TV and film. And why did we go to entertainment for The Hollywood Outsider? It is simply because we didn't want to. It's stupid to compete against ourselves.
Right.
Silly.
Our show is also a little bit more broad because we do talk about topics like
About
entertainment
broads?
topics.
About dames.
About broads and dames,
Yeah.
you know?
I
When
just
they-
lost half the vote.
From classic movies. What the hell? I just finished. Did I tell you guys this? I just finished every Alfred Hitchcock movie on the Presenting Hitchcock podcast.
It's very exciting.
Hitchcock movie we finished.
Does that mean the podcast is over?
We're going to continue. We just did it like our awards thing, like our favorite things about the Hitchcock movies. But we're going to keep going with like remakes and sequels and Hitchcockian films.
Interesting.
So we're going to go that way.
I like
but
that.
But it's pretty cool knowing that now I was very, very happy that I can finally say I have seen every Alfred Hitchcock movie, which I had not.
Good for
to
you.
that point. It's kind of a cool chore. Even the silent films, which I don't like silent films, and doing the podcast made me appreciate them even less. I like sound. Big fan.
So if you're a person that's like Discovery and has any Alfred Hitchcock type memorabilia that you feel is like worth $0, I'm sure Aaron will pay top dollar to receive that.
I bet.
Or he'll just pay the $0 and get top memorabilia.
Or I'm definitely not paying top dollar for $0 worth. Where does your math go?
It's worth something to you. It's not worth anything to me.
I see.
But if you're like, I have this thing, and you're like, whoever talks first loses. So
okay, all right. Well, let's do a couple of reviews. Amanda, I saw No Hard Feelings. You can lead this.
I'm gonna take my headphones off because I'm going to see it this week.
Do you think I'm going to spoil it?
Yeah.
Here's a hint. No Hard Feelings. It's a double entendre.
All I heard about it was that it was really good, and it's not as stupid comedy as you think, and it actually has a really good story.
Yes, that's all true.
We're about to find out.
Review's over.
No Hard Feelings is about a woman who's desperate for cash and agrees to date a rich couple's introverted and awkward 19-year-old son. This is directed by Gene Stupinski, and it stars Aaron's favorite in the entire world, Jennifer Lawrence.
Second favorite, Salma Hayek.
Second favorite. You're right. I'm so sorry.
Let's
that
not
was insulting.
take Salma Hayek off her pedestal. Thank you.
Truly.
Aaron still really wanted to be 19 though this past week.
Sure did. I'm sure he did. Apparently, there's even a nude scene. Is that correct?
What? I don't know. I diverted my eyes.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You saved that. You took like a photographic image in your brain and said, let me commit this to memory for the rest of my life.
No, but I will say, okay, before you finish, side note, since you brought it up, there is a nude scene, like it's full frontal, which I don't really know why she needed to do that. Honestly, I don't think the movie needed to have that, but whatever. It's a very funny scene. Like the scene is freaking hilarious. But I gotta say, I admire her because you remember she was all part of that, and I did not name this, the fappening thing from a few years ago where her naked pictures were leaked by a boyfriend or something like that or whatever. And, she was very humiliated by that because people thought that it was okay to spread that around. And she's like, that's my personal. Well, she's kind of like taking ownership of her own body back, taking her own autonomy back and her agency. I think that's really cool because she's kind of diluted the whole thing. She's made it where it's not a thing anymore. She's really just made it very, like the way that she's approached it, the way that she's handled it. She's just, I'm not going to let you break me down. And I really admire that. Also,
if anyone's going to get paid off of my nudes, I want it to be me.
I think
that's how I feel.
Yeah, maybe that's her mindset too. It feels like she just wanted to take her agency back. And I
no, 100%. Yeah. So in terms of the comedy, because as Troy kind of alluded to, this seems a bit raunchier. She seems incredibly hilarious. So my question for you is, what kind of level raunchy is it? Or is it like that childish comedy that gets annoying and grating?
No, it's not the Farrelly Brothers kind of raunchy. It's not There's Something About Mary. It's not that. Definitely there's some raunchy stuff there, but it's more pratfalls and just some off-color joke. It's more realistic than I thought, honestly, going in. Most of the raunchy is just the fact that they're talking sex about, her being an older woman at 32, so old, and basically
compared to 19, that's a good gap.
There's 70-year-old guys that are married to 30-year-old women. He's legal.
Doesn't make it not weird.
He's legal.
Doesn't make it not weird.
The rule's always been half plus 7, so.
That's your rule? 30, it's not my rule? My rule is
a rule from the 1400s, actually.
If you're comfortable and it's legal, I'm good. It's a consenting relationship. I don't care. That's your business.
That's what matters ultimately.
Yeah. So,
and being over 18 helps.
And believe it or not, he's not very consenting with her. I don't understand it. I feel like he's blind. But at some point, he's a decent guy. And the raunchy humor is not that raunchy. It is there. It's R-rated, but it's more language and just ridiculously over the top comedy here and there. So it wasn't as raunchy as I was expecting, put it that way, but it was still very funny.
So a couple other questions that I have about this is she's obviously doing this for her own benefit. And I can't imagine that this kid is like going to say no to Jennifer Lawrence's character. Oh, okay. Interesting. But my thing was going to be, what is their dynamic? Like, does she seem to be completely uninterested in him and he seems engaged in her? Does he seem completely not interested? So she has to try to like fight to get him to date her?
Well, I mean, they've made 100 of these with Flipped, like in the 80s and 90s, right? So it's the same kind of idea. She needs the money. She's trying to seduce him to get the money. That's essentially what, the parents want him to get laid and have fun and not go to college being a prude. She comes to care about him because she realizes he's actually a decent kid, young man, whatever you want to say. And so, she has to reconcile that. And she is a good person. She's not trying to hurt anyone. She's just desperate to keep her house that she has. That was her mother's house. And she lives in this seaside community that has been taken over by rich people. And therefore, she can't really afford the house that she has anymore. Because when rich people come, they raise the property values and taxes go up. That's how that works.
Does this flip any of the cliches from this subgenre on its head at all? Or is it cliched all the way?
I mean, I wouldn't say it flips it. It's the same cliches, just the other side. I think it's more honest, I guess. I will say that this movie has a lot more heart than I ever expected in a movie like this. Usually, they're not really trying to have any kind of heart. And I really feel like there's a real relationship here, not necessarily romantic, but a real relationship of sorts, friendship, more than friendship, but not quite romance, whatever, at play with these two. And so there's quite a bit of heart. I don't think it flips any cliches, though, really. It just changes sides. I don't think you can make the same movie reversed right now, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. But honestly, probably 20 years ago, you couldn't have made it that way. I don't know.
So you're basically saying it's a reverse She's All That.
Kind of.
With a combo of One Crazy Summer.
It's a sex comedy. It's a sex comedy. There's a ton of them where guys were chasing women or girls in the 80s and 90s, and that's all that was around. It's the same concept, just reversed. And I mean, you could, if they treated it like they treat this one, I think maybe you could do it. But you know how sensitive everybody is. I mean, they're already coming down on her because of the content. And it's just like, did you see the movie? Because in the movie, it really kind of gets covered pretty well. So they do a good job with it. It's not
overall,
freaky and naughty like you think it is.
Overall, if the full price of admission were $10, what are you giving No Hard Feelings?
I give it $6.50. I laughed a lot. I had a good time. I really cared about the characters. Really like Andrew Barth Feldman, by the way, who plays Percy, the kid, the 19-year-old. Does a really good job. Like, he really won me over as a character.
That's cool.
Yeah. And she's great. Honestly, she needs to do more comedies because Jennifer Lawrence is funny. If you've ever seen an interview, you know that.
She is really funny.
So do you guys think raunchy comedies still work? What do you think? Or are we too prudish these days?
I think it depends on the generation, right? Like, I think for us in the age bracket that, well, Aaron and I are in, right? At the time, it was great to see stuff like, Road Trip, Euro Trip.
Euro Trip. Scotty doesn't know.
American Pie.
That Fiona and me in my
National
van every
Lampoon's
Sunday. Sorry.
National Lampoon's Van Wilder was amazing.
Tells him she's at church, but he doesn't know. Still, she's on her knees, and Scotty doesn't know.
God, that's one of my favorite comedy scenes of all time.
It's so funny. Oh my God.
Sorry, continue, Troy. We got into a.
No, I was saying National Lampoon's Van Wilder also comes to mind.
Oh, yeah, but
which
why?
I thought was hysterical.
But why?
So are raunchy comedies not over for you, is what you're saying? Or is that something of your past? Like when you were younger?
I think you're saying our demographic is okay with it. It's just
gotcha.
The younger you go, the more it seems. Your generation and younger seems to not be as fond of them. What do you say? What do you say to represent your entire generation?
No pressure at all. I don't know. Maybe I am different than my generation, but I do think that the majority of us still fall in line with you guys. But I also think that I'm right on the line. Well, I'm not right on the line, but I'm not that young anymore these days. I've gotten older. So these younger generations in their 20s and in their early teens and stuff like that, I think they look through the raunchy comedy through a different lens. And is the comedy quips and stuff like that directed equally at both sexes. And, they're going to think through it a little bit deeper versus we used to just laugh at whatever was funny type of thing. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, because now you're overanalyzing it, right? Because I don't want to what's the right word?
I don't know, but you got tap dancing shoes on. Let's go.
I don't want to offend any particular race, community, gender, whatever. I'm just saying, like, at the time of these comedies when they were out, when we were out, right, it was just a matter of you go to the theater to enjoy it. Now everything has to be viewed through the lens of, is this going to offend this community? And is this going to offend this race? And is this going to offend this thing? And it's like, there's never just a matter of just enjoying it for the enjoyment's sake anymore.
Yeah, what are we having to? Can we just offend individual people then? Is that cool? Because I like that. I do that a lot.
Yeah, I offend Aaron all the time with my presence.
It's true.
I think it is just, partly generational and partly just what you've grown up around. Like if you were exposed to a lot of that when you were younger.
Hey. What does that mean?
I'm just saying. No. Like exposed to more crude commentary.
Oh. I thought you went to a Catholic school. I didn't know what was going on.
No, she's not wrong. Like when we were growing up as kids, people Aaron and my age, you didn't have cable, you didn't have access to certain things. So when an R-rated movie came out where there were boobies and naughty words and things of that nature, you were like, sign me up. Like
naughty words.
I just turned
Grandpa. All right, Pappy.
I just turned 16, right? I can get in now without my mom and dad. It's like you went to the theater and you went and saw that stuff. It's like, now my kid's like 12 years old, has a device in their hand, and they're already looking at nude stuff on YouTube. It's like, it's completely demystified. So it doesn't make sense to have these kinds of properties for that age group anymore.
They have nude stuff on YouTube?
Everything is on YouTube.
Everything is on YouTube.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why things like an R-rated movie being 17 without a parent, it's like, okay, are we 50 here? Like, let's go ahead and revise.
I don't know.
Parents would have an uproar over that.
Which is funny because they don't seem to take any initiative in making their kids shut the hell up in a theater.
Right.
Sorry.
Which actually the irony in the whole thing is that Common Sense Media, which is actually a very heavy Christian-based organization, is actually the place that has the most sensibility about the films, because it'll say, here's what Common Sense Media says, and then it'll say, here's what parents say, and then here's what kids say. So you actually get a good... And it's like, even the kids will be like, you know what? 11's fine.
I don't know, but I just did a shot every time you said and I'm going to pass out in 4 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah. Any recent film or TV recommendations before we move on that we haven't already talked about?
I finally finished Love and Death after I had seen the first couple of episodes at South by Southwest, the Candy Montgomery series with Elizabeth Olsen.
Yep. How was it?
It was fantastic. The two of them were really great. I'm glad I didn't look any more into the
case,
a true story. Yeah, the case, because I'm glad to see how they twisted me around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a good time with it. It was I thought it would be a little bit more gory and brutal and stuff for some reason, but it really wasn't. It was very tame. It was nice that they focused on the character development by, obviously by making it into a series, you have to focus on that. But they really helped you buy into every side of the story, if that makes sense. So I thought, and they show every side of the story too.
I think I mentioned Silo last week, but it's still really, really, really good. And then I started up on The Idol on HBO, on Max. And
I've heard
it's
that's
also airing
awful.
on HBO.
I've heard that's awful.
It's if you like Euphoria,
I don't.
Without Zendaya, like if you took
what's the point?
Well, if you took Zendaya out of Euphoria, that's basically kind of what you're getting. It's just a lot of great music with really raunchy stuff and no comedy. So
is the Weeknd?
Sign me up.
Hang on. Is the Weeknd as bad as I hear though? Acting wise?
Acting wise, yeah, for sure.
He's not a good actor.
No.
Wonderful singer.
Yeah, but you're not watching it for him.
I might.
Who are you watching it for?
For the music, for the art, for the dancing.
Oh, thank God! I thought he was going to say something super pervy. Okay.
No.
Whew. Good news. I saw Extraction 2. Loved it. John talked about it last week. I'm not going to you go listen to that. I don't want to go on about it, but man, the action scenes were fantastic. It was really, really intense, really well done. Reminded me of like an 80s Schwarzenegger flick.
Nobody saw this, but Amanda just yawned as Aaron was talking about it. Like,
Yeah,
Expendables, what?
that's true.
Extraction, whatever.
I didn't
Energizer
mean to.
Bunny, what?
I've just been awake for so long.
Well, thankfully, I don't want to cling to the past. So we're going to move on to our From the Outside In
good
topic.
Lord.
That was good!
That was so cheesy.
You're
Where
cheesy.
are you wearing New Balance shoes right now? Because you sound really old.
I am.
Embarrassing.
I was actually I'm kind of embarrassed for him because I thought that's one that I would actually have said.
So I'm wearing a members only jacket. What's up?
Just keeps getting better.
Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. I want to talk about two topics here. Why do we as a society and as filmgoers cling so desperately to the past, but two sides of the same coin? So, of course, there's nostalgia, right? So we'll talk about that. But what about like the actual past? Why do we feel like we have to constantly relive the worst experiences of our collective culture in the most dramatic of films? I never want to forget the past. I don't. But there are positive stories that deserve to be told there as well. Are there not, Troy? Like, shouldn't we try to do that a little bit more often, and then instead of always focusing on the worst, the 12 Years a Slave, the Oppenheimers, the worst stories that are in our collective past? Pearl Harbor, but that's more worse because of the acting in that film.
I mean, I don't want to be cliche, but those who don't learn from their past are doomed to repeat it.
I literally just said that.
So therefore, that's why we have these movies, right? We're teaching new people about what is the Manhattan Project, what was Oppenheimer's responsibility for it, things of that nature. There's just a lot, I think, that is still sugar-coated in school that is not really dug into the horror and significance and impact that certain things have. And also there's people that still don't believe that we landed on the moon. Hard to believe, but it's true. And it's like, so you have to tell these stories in whatever way you can, whether it's short form, long form, write a book, play a video game, doesn't matter. Art has always been a way to be able to express those stories and tell them sometimes in different points of view. Like 11/22/63 is a great example. You get to learn all about JFK and how he got shot, but you get this whole like what if concept if he didn't get shot. And I think with the conspiracy like JFK getting shot, and was it from the grassy knoll, and was it from the Buck Depository, and was it the Russians, or was it the mob or whatever? There's just lots of interesting stories that come out of those events that you can make movies and television for eons because of it. Right,
but when I understand that, and I agree with you. On the same token, we don't make enough positive historical stories, like to reinforce that there were positive events as well. I mean, Syndrome K, you can look it up if you don't, the 1904 Olympics. There's a lot of different stories that haven't really been told in movies that are more upbeat. I'm not saying that we can't have I feel like all we ever get are the negative ones, are the dire ones. We don't really get a lot of positive stories.
That's because the U.S. has won, right? In the 1980s, it was a scary time. It was like when you got Chariots of Fire and you got Miracle on Ice, right? Or Miracle, the movie, right? With Kurt Russell.
Sure.
Great movie. Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsled team goes to the Olympics. Like, those are stories of like unsung heroes climbing to the top to overcome a big bad that right now, even though everybody else in the world thinks the U.S. is a big bad, in the U.S. is like, we're on top. Like, we're cruising. Sure. We're awesome. So therefore, there's no propaganda that needs to be made today in order to have those types of movies. The things that we have to talk about are the bad stuff, right? We revel in the despair because we're on top. It's only when we're in despair do we try to then propagandize, hey, we can get out of this despair if we just all band together and do this awesome thing.
But there are other stories that are still positive that also can speak to that tragic past. I mean, Hidden Figures is a great movie about really strong, brilliant women that solved our space program and got that story out there. It's a more positive story. Not everything has to be the darkest, and I feel like we need a little bit more light in the world, I guess. Maybe I'm just being an idiot. I don't know.
Yeah, but
no,
light
I'm
doesn't sell.
oversaturated with some of these really dark and dour properties that seem to be endless. And I felt like through COVID, we got a really big uplift of getting more positive stories because we were living in such dour times. We needed something more optimistic. To Troy's point, I think because we're now on that downward slope where things aren't as bad as they were, we're going back to having some of those more serious topics. And to the other point Troy had, which I can't believe I agreed with an entire statement Troy made, but
and it was mostly
the
on
other
topic.
Point, yeah. The other part of it is truly, I've learned more history from movies and television than I ever learned in school. I had no idea.
That is true.
I had no idea how dark American history really was or is. Like, I truly didn't comprehend the depth of it, because when history was being taught to me, it was poised from one perspective in these books where it was like, America, hoorah, basically. Like, America was never, could never be wrong or faulted. We never did anything that was unacceptable, I guess, if you will. Like, war was posed in the way where it was, we had to do this. It was, we had to do it, and we were doing the right thing.
America's always in the right. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus, the reality, which is, sometimes we did some really bad things for the best outcome, trying to make the best outcome. And sometimes we just did really awful freaking things that lasted for centuries, and the ramifications lasted forever. And we have to be able to really own up to what has happened in our past and why people are the way they are. And I think our society is so infatuated with psychology at this point. Why are people criminals? Why did people treat people bad? Why are people this? Why are people that? They're obsessed with it to the point where this is giving reasons to help explain why everything has happened the way it has happened. And once that one can of worms comes out where it's like, you had no idea about this, it's like, what? I had no idea about the Tulsa Massacre. And when you find out about that can of worms opens up and you're like, how was I sheltered from this piece of knowledge? You start to cling towards what other stories was I missing about our world, about our history, about things that my family, was there to witness. And so I think when you have that culmination of things, it's not so much we want the negative stories, it's we're trying to get the reality of history. And also, those typically make better movies. Let's just be honest. The happy-go-lucky ones, they're harder to achieve and accomplish success with, because you have to put all those trials and tribulations, something for the hero to overcome. And, how are they going to get to their final journey, and what hurdle are they going to have to overcome there, and how are they going to make this happen, and the underdog, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, prior to the spring of 2020, there isn't probably a good chunk of the American population that had any idea what Tulsa was about or that Juneteenth existed. Right? It took the killing of two people for Black Lives Matter to come into the forefront. I mean, you think about everything that took place between March 2020 and March 2021, between pandemic, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, other people.
Go January, so you could throw the insurrection in there too.
Well, the insurrection happened 21.
21.
Right?
Sorry, you're right.
So then you get into the election and the Trump versus Biden, and then the results aren't till like 10 days later, and then
massive weather incident every single month, like
every month. Yeah,
Australia was the entire place was on fire at one point.
Yeah, it was like it was a 365 day of just absolute suck.
Yeah.
So
and that's when we got the good stuff, Troy.
Yeah,
that's when we got the happy stuff.
That's literally when Ted Lasso graced our presence.
And Schitt's Creek got more popular.
Yep.
Because we needed that. Now we don't need it as much. And
now we need to be reminded of our mistakes. Is that what you're saying? Like, we need to be, hey, you know what? You guys, we all did some stuff, or our ancestors did some stuff.
One thing that I think these younger generations are not getting enough credit for, because we give them a lot of shit for being sensitive.
Which
and
generation? The younger
Just younger.
generation? I give them, before you,
Under
I will
30s.
say I give them full credit for like recognizing the wrongs of the world, where we just kind of glossed over them, I think, as a generation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm going to say is I think that they deserve a lot of credit for that, because if they had not pushed and pushed and pushed for the rest of the world to see the reality, I don't think we would have seen it. I don't think we would have realized and recognized and had this consensus. I mean, even though the country and the world has been very divided, very, very divided, more divided than it's been in a long time, not the most divided, but more divided than it's been in a while.
Yeah, it's not the most divided. People that say it's the most divided it's ever been aren't old enough to remember a different time.
Yeah, that's what the history value is.
Yeah.
But
civil rights, gay rights, abortion, that's a lot more divisive
It's
than
been a
that.
long
Women's
time.
rights isn't that old.
Well, it came back into the forefront. Yeah, you're right. 100 years old since a lot of the action started happening, and they've reverted back 50 years just recently.
Yeah. And so that's where, and I also think that a lot of people are trying to, and this may just be me brainstorming, I guess, but what I've also noticed that there's been a huge uptick in people wanting to debate facts, what they know versus what someone else knows. And so to be able to arm yourself in preparation for debates, I think people are also seeking out these informational properties, because they're like, well, at some point this is going to come up, so I better know about it type of thing. Like, I think people truly are just have become that, I don't know what the right word is. It's not rigid. It's like, stick it to them. Like, I need to be right. And so I'll do everything in my power to make it right. So they Google and research things that they've never cared about in their entire life before, because they got into an argument with one person on Twitter that they don't even know, who's probably a bot, first of all. And then they're like, well, let's see what other things I can get. I think that's a smaller portion of the population who's, seeking these different types of sadder properties. But I think that may be what also draws people into it.
But
is
never wants to
wanting
admit they're wrong. Ever, never. You want to see what an intellectual is? It's a person who can have a debate. If you can't have a debate, as far as I'm concerned, you're not an intellectual. If you just know you're right, but can't have a conversation, doesn't mean you're wrong. Just means you have to have a conversation about it. That's what a healthy debate is. Hearing the other person's perspective, okay, and seeing how much of it is based in actual fact versus nonsense.
Right.
Which, sadly, you're right, Amanda. Today it's a lot of it. All right, well, moving on, nostalgia, right? So we're talking past, two different ways. So now we're talking nostalgia. How much of our cinematic past do we have to dredge up? I think they're going to just totally AI indie in 10 more years. They're going to recast the Mutant Ninja Turtles in another 5, transform more Transformers. They're going to just keep regurgitating IP after IP. We're going to get another run at Barbie in another decade. We'll probably get some other take on Tarantino's property, something along those lines. Why will we go watch regurgitated past glories, but we skip the newer and exciting stuff, or what we should consider exciting, for the regurgitated stuff? What's our problem? What's the problem?
I think we've had too much content where people have been misled into watching something that they thought would be good, and it turns out to not be their thing, and they become disappointed. And when that happens over and over again, you start watching a bunch of stuff on I shouldn't pick on a certain streaming network. You watch something on a certain streaming network that
I don't want to know
you go
what
back
network
to
you were
over
thinking
and
about.
I was going to say Peacock. But you go over and over and over to the streaming network, and every single thing you watch isn't good. But then you go back to the things that you've liked, and it's like, oh, okay, this is comfort. I like this. I'm comfortable with it. And so I think part of it is going to be that people have tried so many bad things that they have a more negative taste of wanting to try different properties that are new to them. It's kind of like the way I operate when I go to a restaurant. I like to go with the things that I know I like. I don't want to take the risk of trying something that is new to me and not liking it and wasting my time and money when I could just have the same thing that I always order and I'll be satisfied with it. That's kind of what I think part of it is. The other part of it, I think, goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is properties are just being made when they can bank on an IP. And people buy into that, again, because of their either need for nostalgia or, wanting to make sure that the money that they're spending is worthwhile. And they know that they're going to get a return on seeing another Mission Impossible movie because they loved all the other 4 Mission Impossible movies or however many there are. How many are there? 8, 9, 10?
8.
Something ridiculous. Too many. But guess what? People keep seeing them.
It's true.
And that's, there's another factor. Inflation. Things are expensive. Why spend money on something that you don't know you're going to like when you can spend money on something you know you are going to like?
I'd rather do that. I'd rather take a chance.
Yeah, but people don't want to take chances
I know.
anymore. They've taken too many risks.
Talking about me. Just me. Just me. Just talking about me.
That's what I think.
Get A-list. My God.
Yeah,
it's the
get A-list.
Best deal. It's like
truly.
$20 some a month, and you can see all the movies you want all month long. Come on.
3 a week.
And
I'm going to channel my inner Matt Damon for this and science the shit out of this.
Oh.
So,
oh boy. Here's Troy.
There was actually research done.
Let me get a pillow. Hang on. Let me get a pillow.
This is the 3 science-backed reasons why you actually like rewatching TV shows.
He just Googled an article.
Actually, that's not sciencing the shit out of anything. That's using Google.
No, actually, my wife actually provided this to me earlier today and didn't even know we were talking about this topic.
Oh.
So
it's not connected in any way, shape, or form as usual.
Very timely. But it's one person says basically like there's actually serotonin levels because it makes you feel comfortable like you're literally sitting with old friends because it helps you feel less lonely. Because if you're feeling kind of down and depressed or whatever, or your name just happens to be Arjan, then, you just go to those places.
Jesus Christ. Mr. Eeyore.
Arjan just goes to those places, right? He likes to watch the things that he's comfortable with on the background because they're his friends in that moment, right?
Sure.
Maybe not literally friends, but they're his friends in the moment. The other one is that rewatching shows allows us to dive into a social world that we already feel comfortable with and established to. It's a fast way to feel connected, much like talking to an old friend makes one feel connected and more quickly than going to a new person and trying to like figure out that whole new relationship energy and have a conversation and see if I like you or don't like you. And it might take 3 times before we actually feel like we're actually getting somewhere. The second thing is that it's emotionally comfortable. And so though we tend to think of watching TV as a relatively passive activity, it often gets linked to the term couch potato. Derek says in this article that viewing a miscellaneous show that isn't a favorite can actually take energy away. If you're stressed or tired or overworked, watching a non-favorite show can add to the problem rather than actually help it. So you go back to the thing that makes you comfortable so you can de-stress from the thing you're actually stressing about.
I just want to add Troy is reading an entire article of things that I already said.
Yeah, kind of, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just say that you concur.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just like Amanda agreed with me earlier, I'm agreeing with everything Amanda said.
But it does come down to comfort, though, right? Like ultimately, that's what it is.
Right. The third point is that it may help you recharge your batteries. In psychology, self-control is the ability to be in command of one's own behavior and to restrain or inhibit one's impulses. So if you're feeling lonely or upset or stressed, it requires a lot more self-control. Watching something you've already familiar with, you don't have to be so much like on guard. You can just relax and feel at ease.
I guess.
I would say this is true, right?
Is this you talking, or is this you like stealing from?
Or
the
is this Arthur Bateman who wrote the article?
No, this is me now speaking.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All
and
right.
that I watched This Is Us. I watched A Million Little Things. I felt like This Is Us, where it was a nice cathartic cry. It felt was very manufactured for the cry. Watching A Million Little Things, I felt like those were my friends. When that show ended, I miss Rome and Regina and their relationship. I miss Eddie. I miss Gary. I miss those people. Like those, I felt like people that I hang out with on a regular basis. And you just connected to that show where I legitimately was like, I am sad this is over. And I'll actually go back and watch A Million Little Things episodes just because it feels like, oh, hey, there's Rome. What's up, Rome?
I can't believe that show makes you feel good.
There's a lot of
really good
relationships are amazing.
It's not This Is Us. This Is Us. It was literally like,
that show's miserable. Like,
miserable.
that show is miserable.
Cry
I don't
fest.
understand.
Intentionally.
I don't know how many people would tell me, it's such a great show. You're just going to be so sad every episode. I'm like, why the fuck would I want to watch this? Why? What is the selling pitch to just, you're going to cry every week? Why do I want to do that? I don't want to do that.
They're trying to make you more sensitive and soften you up.
I'm
a little
sensitive
bit, like
enough.
some butter.
Believe me, I'm good. I don't
They're
need
there
anymore.
because they literally have to sell depression drugs from the pharmaceutical companies in the commercial breaks.
That show was probably made by a pharmaceutical company. That's who produced it. I get nostalgic for stuff, but it's like not as I don't know. It's not fair. I mean, I'm super stoked for Indiana Jones, and
I was gonna say if Spider-Man and No Way Home, when that moment happened, you got very nostalgic.
You're right. It gets me too.
Indiana Jones, you're probably gonna grab the whip and the hat right now.
Did I tell you guys? My mother for my birthday got me an authentic bullwhip, an actual
awesome.
bullwhip, and an authentic Indiana Jones fedora. So I am going to totally injure myself and get that scar that Harrison Ford has, that one across his chin. I'm going to have that by the end of the month. I guarantee it.
Why don't you just like pencil that in instead?
No, I'm going to go out. I'm going to use this bullwhip. I'm going to go over some caverns, some chasms, whatever. I'm going to take some chances. I might whip the old wife and see if I can bring her closer like Willie. Of course, there might be hospitalization involved there, but I'm going to use it.
You're going to break a hip is what you're going to do, just like Harrison Ford is about to.
He's about to. Although we just watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I got to say, he was moving pretty well in that.
I beg to differ. Did you see him running on top of the crates? That man looked like he looks like the 13-year-old dog that's upstairs in my house right now, limping to get around.
I feel his pain. I understand.
And that was like 10 years ago.
I understand where he's coming from. All right. It gets me. Nostalgia gets me too. I'm a sucker. I get it. We're all suckers.
So why do you like, what is it about nostalgia for you that draws you in? Is it the emotional comfort or
only works if it's, I only get nostalgic for stuff from my childhood. I think. Yeah. It just makes me think of, growing up with my mom and watching movies. That going back to my favorite time for watching movies before people tried to ruin it for me, because now people can be very negative about movies and, they don't want to look for the good in everything. They want to just find the bad. They want to complain. They want to see something. And I'm sorry, it happens all over the place. You guys are on the internet, right? It's everywhere. And my childhood didn't have any of that. It was wonder. It was even bad movies. I could find something good about them. I was looking for it. I was kind of raised to look for, 100 people worked on this. Try to find something positive about it. Doesn't mean that it's a good movie, because a lot of them can be bad, but try to find something positive and see, maybe you'll see it in a different light. And they usually can work, if you take that approach. So I can enjoy watching an awful movie. If
Except The Shining.
I don't like that one at all. No, sure don't. It's too cheesy. I read the book too, and I know that's a factor. So I love the book, and what that movie is not even close to what that book is. That's a whole other topic. So nostalgia, makes me feel like a kid again. I like anything that makes me feel like, especially the older you get, I think the more you want to feel like a kid again.
Yeah, I think it's
the further you get away from being a kid.
I agree. I call it the Ratatouille moment, where he's sitting there, and then obviously he makes the stew at the end of the movie, and then he takes the bite, and it's like he immediately zaps back into that childlike eyes when his mom's making the same exact thing, and it tastes exactly like it was back then. That's exactly how I felt when I saw Michael Keaton in The Flash. Like, I immediately went back to 1989, 1992, that exact era, right? I'm 14 years old. I can go to Great America and ride the roller coasters by myself, and they just put in the Batman the ride.
I remember
and
that.
The Batmobile was out front, and it's just like, it is a whole other experience of being back in that moment.
They're playing all the Prince music everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like all the cute girls that were in line that you were looking at, because the line was like 5 hours long, and like it just brings you back to a whole other place. The minute you see Michael Keaton just smile on screen in 2023 in the Bat costume.
And now I want to go watch more stuff from when I was a kid. All the good stuff.
I want to go throw up and ride the ride now.
Go watch Clue again. I want to watch Real Genius again.
Real Genius is so good.
I want to go watch so many Young Sherlock Holmes again. Now I'm going to cry. All right.
All right, God.
So,
let me have it.
Since we're all suckers and we love the past, name one story from our past and one past property you would love to revisit in some form and why, Troy.
I don't know why, because when somebody explained to me that the Thundercats were just chasing a giant red dot in the sky, and it like completely ruined Thundercats for me from that moment on. I really, 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 really want a really good live action Thundercats movie.
Ho! You got to say the ho.
Got to say the ho.
Especially on the ho.
Yeah. I think Thundercats was a very interesting property from the childhood that, if you can do, Beast Wars and Transformers and all this other stuff, like there is no reason why we can't have a kick-ass Thundercats movie.
And about something from the past? Anything?
Oh, that would be from the past.
No, I mean story, like a factual past event.
Oh, like to myself?
No.
Oh, he's talking like a historical event.
Historical event. Any historical event and a past property.
Okay. Historical event then. I think it'd be interesting because we're so reliant and we're in this movement today around, should we go solar power, wind power, hydrogen power, coal, gasoline, blah, 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 all this fossil fuels and how it's ruining the climate change environment. Mm-hmm. I would love to see a movie about the gas crisis in the 70s.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Like, why was this such a thing? Like, why, was there anything from the gas crisis that actually like sparked the concepts of new alternative ways of energy? Is that where people thought about, could we do hydrogen? Could we do ethanol? Because the gas was a shortage? Like, I think that might be a very interesting topic to explore.
I like it. How about you, Amanda?
For my historical event, I'm going to give you two. One that's like an actual like American historical event, which is the Stonewall riots. I know there was like a movie that came out in 2015 or something that wasn't very good, so I would want it to be a good making of that. But essentially that's what sparked the gay rights movement. And so I would love to see that property. I think the timing would be really relevant now too. And then in terms of a story, it is a true story, but it's someone's story. My favorite book, which is really, I don't know, it's really weird that it's my favorite book, but it's called A Child Called It. And it's a somewhat biographical, autobiographical novel, book, whatever. And it's a very, very sad story, but I also think that it could be very relevant also to people kind of waking up and realizing just how bad abuse is in our country, and specifically child abuse. And so that would be a story I would love to see kind of brought to the forefront for a conversation. In terms of a past property, this should not be a surprise to anybody. I would love to see Buffy come back.
Would you?
When I think about
recast
a past
and everything,
property,
or would you want to see her do it?
Yeah, I think you'd have to recast it. But I feel after I've watched Sarah Michelle Gellar in so many different things, and I've obviously watched her enough in Buffy, I think she excels in her role as Buffy to some extent, but she was still very cheesy that I think we could still get someone to live up to that. It would be tough, but I would love to see that property come back just because that is nostalgia and comfort for me.
Do you want teen Buffy or do you want like adult Buffy?
I don't know. I'm kind of open to it. And it's funny because I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was asked about this and I was like, absolutely not. Do not bring this back. But after some time, I don't know, you just start to miss the things that you had comfort in. And I also miss like those weekly watches of shows or like doing things like that for these big shows that you'd get into. And that doesn't happen anymore, where you can make it an event, kind of like Game of Thrones was for a lot of people. You could make that into an event with people to watch it together. And that's what I miss.
The Joss Whedon of it all?
So that part's a little complex. I think that while I don't necessarily think that I would want him to lead the property, I don't know. He made for a very uncomfortable and aggressive set from everything that we've heard. And allowed some very inappropriate things to occur. So I don't think that he should be in charge of a set and be a showrunner. But do I still think that he has vision that we could tap into? Absolutely.
It is very tricky, isn't it?
It's
he
his
hasn't
property.
Committed a crime, but he was shady.
He was, and like, I don't know. I've kind of just been recently, like, I know this sounds, I'm not going to say this on the podcast.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Walk away. Walk away.
Yep.
All right. Good reference.
Well, if you wanted teen Buffy, I would recommend Sadie Stanley as the new teen Buffy. She was Adam Goldberg's girlfriend, Bria B, in the Goldbergs, and she's now airing in Cruel Summer on Freeform Freevee, whatever that is now.
Okay.
I think she'd be perfect for it.
We're not a studio, Troy, so
I'm just...
You don't got to sell me. I don't know who she is. She was in Cruel Summer. She was one of the girls in Cruel Summer.
That's what I just
Interesting.
Said. Yeah, you literally did just say
I
that.
missed that part. My
it's
bad.
wonderful when you're both around because
you.
neither one of you listen. So that's great. That's great. I would want the story of Rick Rescorla. You probably don't even know who he is, but they it's one of those things where you're just gonna have to Google him because I can't really touch it all. But September 11th kind of hit home hard for me for a lot of different reasons that I'm not going to go into. But one of them being that I was at the airport that day, so it was, it was very impactful in that respect, like just seeing everything firsthand. And he's a hero that never gets talked about really, but he basically saved, in my opinion, he saved the lives of like 2,700 people, 2,800 people, whatever the number was, because they were told in the tower, in South Tower, to stay at their desk, and he's the guy who said, "Nah, screw that," and basically told people to get out, ignore the announcement, and get out of the building. So he saved a lot of people. I believe a lot of other people believe that too. But you look into it and tell me what you think. But I think that would be a cool story to see. And I don't really want to hear any crazy conspiracy theories about 9/11 because that just irritates me. But that's what I would like to see as a historical event. And
I'm reading up on him, and it sounds really interesting because
he
was a British American soldier, a police officer, an educator, and a private security specialist. I'll skip past his history, but he was
a Vietnam vet.
Mm-hmm.
And he rose to the rank of colonel in the Army. So he was the director of security for the financial services firm Morgan Stanley at WTC, and he anticipated attacks on the towers and implemented evacuation procedures that were credited with saving thousands of lives. He died during the attack, going back to help evacuate more people in the South Tower after he had organized the evacuation of the Morgan Stanley offices.
Yeah, it's a cool...
I had no idea about this either.
Yep, it's hardly ever talked about, but it's true, and it's wild story, and I'd love to see that because I think people like that should be immortalized. And bringing back something nostalgic, Millennium I'd want to bring that back in some form. I think
really,
I love that show, man. I love that. Did you watch it with?
I never really could get into it because I felt like this was the companion for the X-Files because the X-Files is getting long in the tooth, and it just never felt like X-Files enough. But I just never got into it.
The idea of it. Lance Henriksen played a guy named Frank Black who was a profiler, and I love anything that has to do with profilers. Amanda, you love this too. You love profilers.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of I don't want to say disgrace, but a former FBI agent, and he had this kind of ability to see through the eyes of killers and whatnot. And he ends up working for this group called the Millennium Group, and they have ulterior motives and everything else, but basically he's trying to hunt down murderers, and they're using his gifts for that. But there's also like a back plot that I think would probably need to get reworked in some fashion because I don't know if that completely worked. But I really dug the vibe of the show, the feel of the show. Lance Henriksen was such a great lead for that show, and it was very much very similar in tone to X-Files, at least the darker X-Files episodes, but it was consistent. I really love that show, and just get Chris Carter out of it, and I think it'd be all right, because I think he just forgot how to write, honestly, at some point. And I think that could be something great. We find the right lead for it, rework how the Millennium Group works, and I think that could be something cool. And if you've never seen the show, I think it might be on Hulu. So it's worth a watch, for sure. You just have to go watch. The X-Files had like a single episode that was the actual ending to the show. That's the way. So you got to go hunt down that one episode. It's kind of weird.
That is weird.
It's kind of weird. All right. Well, share your thoughts on this episode or anything else in our Facebook group or on Twitter @BuyPopcorn. Our site's thehollywoodoutsider.com. And, of course, review us. And starting July 1st, nominate us for Best Entertainment at podcastawards.com and the Blacklist Exposed for TV and film. Now we're going to recast the classics. And you know what I'm talking about? Indiana Jones. Because we're getting another Indiana Jones movie. In 10 years, there's just no way, I don't care what they say, that they don't do another Indiana Jones movie in some fashion. We're going to pretend they're doing it now. And we haven't done this game in a long time. So, seeing as Disney will eventually remake Indiana Jones, let's recast a classic. We're going to recast Short Round, Marion Crane, any indie villain of your choice, and then, of course, Indiana Jones. Who wants to go first? Who thinks they've got it? Who thinks they've nailed it?
I did, but I didn't use Short Round because Short Round only showed up the one time. So I was thinking more like Indy's like counterpart, right? Either Sulla or Marcus.
Sure movie, remake
is that
it.
Example.
Let's go, recast it. What do you got?
So just as a sidekick to Indy, I would include Chris Pratt for the comic relief.
Okay.
And then for Marion, I would pick Jodie Comer. And then
Can't go wrong there.
And for the villain, I would pick Idris Elba.
I'd watch this.
And then Indiana Jones, I picked Ewan McGregor.
And you lost me. What? Ewan McGregor?
Yes.
Did you just watch Obi-Wan Kenobi or something? Is that what this is from?
He's great in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love him in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think he could totally have the swagger if he wants the swagger. He just has to shave the beard.
I can't see that one. I'd love to be able to. I can't see that.
But you also have Idris Elba, Jodie Comer, so you have that English.
Yeah, but your Indiana Jones sucks.
It's Indiana Jones' British version.
It's Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, with Chris Pratt.
Jesus.
Hey, he could do an Italian voice
now. The whole movie, you're just going to be wishing, God, I wish Chris Pratt was the Indiana Jones here.
I originally had him as Indiana Jones, and I thought he'd be too goofy to be Indiana Jones.
I agree with that, actually. I know a lot of people like kind of fan casted him as Indiana Jones. And I'm like, no, he's not. I mean, Bradley Cooper was the guy, 5 years ago was definitely the guy.
Indy would still be Bradley would still be the guy, but I figured somebody else would have picked Bradley, so that's why I went Ewan instead.
Sure. I mean, I
thought about him, but I didn't do it.
All right, Amanda, what's yours? Sorry, I'm not trashing yours. I'm a diehard Indiana Jones fan, so I'm going to tell you what's going to stick and what's not.
So for Short Round, I went with James Marsden.
He's kind of old for Short Round, isn't he?
I don't know. How old does he need to be? Can he be adult Short Round?
I guess he's your
grown
movie.
Short Round. For Marion Crane, I have Emily Blunt.
That was my number 2. I'd go with that.
Okay. What about Aaron? Because I feel like he's got the thumbs up or thumbs down from the indie
Marion
standpoint.
Crane, yeah, that'll work.
Okay. For the villain, I went with Sam Rockwell.
Oh, that's always a winner. Yep.
And then for Indy, I went with Daddy Pedro Pascal.
I mean, why not? He's in everything else. He might as well be.
He is, but I love him so much right now. Like, I think he would be an excellent Indiana Jones.
Just literally, he gets every franchise. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right.
He also reminds me a little bit of Nathan Fillion, which I think is like what captures my heart a little bit.
I can see that. I can.
And I think this is why I don't like Wonder Woman 84, because Pedro was the villain, and I don't like Pedro as a villain. I like Pedro as the hero.
He's good in whatever he does. So, I mean,
yeah.
What
true.
a great actor, because you see him in an interview. He seems like the most approachable, kind, goofy guy. And he is so good in Last of Us and everything else he's done.
So good.
Yeah, no kidding.
I never thought anybody could play Joel, and it was like, oh, he's really good.
Originally they were talking to Matthew McConaughey. Can you imagine how different that would be?
Oh, wow.
All right, so I would go Short Round. It would not be a child. It would be Rina Sawayama, who, did you see, you guys saw John Wick 4?
Mm-hmm.
The daughter in John Wick 4?
Ah.
Okay.
Yep. I really kind of loved her, and I think it would be fun to have Short Round be just a different kind of character. And she played Akira, if you didn't see, if you're wondering what the title of the character was in that movie. Marion Crane, Rebecca Ferguson, who...
A little on the older side, but
hang on there, Grandpa. She's 40. All right, calm down. She's I believe Emily Blunt might be older.
I think they're around the same age.
It'd be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull Marion versus Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I don't think you know how math works because that would be 67, but okay. The indie villain of my choice is Tote from Raiders. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same plot, but I want it to be Jessica Henwick as the villain. I love her, and I want to see her do something villainous, and that would be what I want to see. Now, for Indiana Jones, most of you probably might not know who this guy is, but if you saw Maverick, he played Hangman, Glenn Powell. I love Glenn Powell.
Yeah, I would be down with that. I liked him a lot in that movie.
Love him. He's got the swagger. He's cocky. He's funny. You know, he can do the wit. He can do the action. Oh, God. Absolutely.
He's too...
Nope, you're wrong.
Too buff.
Whatever you got to say is you're wrong.
I would pick your boy from...
He is shiny.
Yeah, I would pick your Reacher boy over this guy.
Reacher's too big. He's way too big at this point. He's become his own solar system. He is. He's literally Reacher for the stars. It's way too big. Way too big.
Don't shit on him. You're just jealous you aren't that
I
big.
love him to death. I just don't think he's a good fit for Indiana Jones. I'd watch anything he did. Absolutely. I hope he does Extraction 3 and, Chris Hemsworth can't make it.
That was mean. Poor Chris.
I like him more than Chris Hemsworth, I can tell you that. Would you guys do the series any different? I would not, but you guys might.
I don't know. I don't know that I'm invested enough in the story. Hold on. Let me say, to the point of, knowing the background and stuff to know what would be a better alternative. And I don't know enough of, historical events to tie them in. So I'm more indifferent because I'm oblivious and naive to history.
What about you, Troy? Would you make a complete science fiction?
Definitely would not make it science fiction. I'm not as perturbed about aliens in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull since we just recently watched it for Bad Movie Night, which you can find on Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really bothered me about Kingdom of Crystal Skull was the fact that it was Ruskies and not Nazis. I feel Indiana Jones is specifically tied to a certain era where the Nazis are looking to take over supernatural things for power. And the fact that it was Russians in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I think, is the thing I actually was the most annoyed with when I watched it again. So I would keep it in the Nazi era.
So you just want him fighting like Edward Norton?
Yeah, I guess.
American History X reference. Huh?
I mean, it might be hard to have Idris Elba be the bad guy and being a Nazi, but, just saying.
Jeez. And he, you know what? He's that good an actor. He would still make it work.
He would still make it work.
He's that good. Jesus.
He was Hitler's right-hand man.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode. God, I got to get out of here before this gets me canceled. So remember, the next time you head to a theater or stream comfortably on your couch, buy popcorn. What the actual fuck, Troy?
This is Troy.
Somebody's tapping.
And did the news change since I last looked at this?
There we go.
Or did I just scroll too fast?
I added one thing.
You added the Paramount Plus thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, there wasn't a news item in that spot before. Now I see a news item in that spot. And I was like,
hold on, let me look real quick.
Well, we can fill in the blanks.
I was like, I just looked at this 3 hours ago, and there's a new thing here.
So
that's a shame because I actually know a kid that was actually in Pink Ladies.
Well, save that cool tidbit until we're recording.
I just said this is Troy and I'm recording.
Fair enough.
Why don't you start the show?
All right. Well, shit. I'm ready. Let's go. Here we go. Ready? Yeah. Where the fuck is it? All right. Welcome to the Hollywood
I wish I had a bag of chips right now.
Jesus, man.
Fucking.
Beep. Reverse yourself.
I just wanted to be Justin for a day.
You have to actually crunch for that to happen.
That's why I said I wish I had a bag of chips.
Well, your heart's still beating, so you're already out one.
Jesus Christ, you can't say that. That just gave me a triple chin from laughing so hard.
Oh, fuck.
I'm going to hell. Such a special health.
Probably.